In this video, we're going to be taking a real-life application problem and solving it. And this is going to actually end up being a system of equations. So we're also going to talk about how to write a system of equations from our problem. So here we have a total of $25,000 is invested into two funds paying 6.5% and 8.5% simple interest. Now the yearly interest is $2,000. So how much is invested at each rate? So when I see problems like this, in order to write them, I like to think how many for one equation, and then how much for my other equation. So what does that really mean? Well, we see that we're going to end up having $25,000 is invested. So that's going to be our first little how many, because we're going to have so many of our first fund and so many of our second fund, and they're going to add up to $25,000 total investment. Then we're going to have our 6.5% and our 8.5%, and those are going to be our how much and our how much, because it's 6.5% of the first type and 8.5% of the second type, and that gets us our how much our yearly interest is. So let's go ahead and let's write this out. All right, so we don't know how many of our first fund. We're going to call our first fund X. Let's call our second fund Y just to make it easy. So we're going to say we don't know how many of this one we bought, but we know if we add it to our second one, which again we don't know how many we bought, then we're going to end up spending a total of $25,000 in investments. But we do know that the interest rate are 6.5%, right? That we know that we have 0.065 of our X. And if we add that to the 0.085% of our Y's, however many Y's that was, and we total that amount of money up, we're going to have $2,000. And so now we're ready to solve this equation. And we're going to use substitution for this. So we're going to look at one of our equations and decide to solve for one of the variables. So this top equation here looks like it's a simpler equation. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to get the y by itself here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we are going to subtract x from both sides. And that's going to give us that y is going to equal 25,000 minus x. And now we're going to take that and we're going to plug that in for our y right here into our second equation. We're going to plug that in. So we're going to plug all of this in for that. So we're going to have our 0.065 x plus our 0.085, and we're going to take the y out, right? We're going to take the y out and we're going to put the 25,000 minus our x into that spot, because we just said, hey, that's the same thing as y. And we're going to say, okay, well, that all is going to end up equaling 2,000. So from here, we're going to distribute our 0.085. So we're going to get 2125 is our answer here. So what I did was I just plugged that in to my calculator. So 0.085 times 25,000. And then on this next one, we're just going to end up having a minus 0.085x. And then equals our 2,000. Then we're going to combine our like terms. And so here we have an x and here we have an x that can go together. So we're going to take our 0.065x and we're going to subtract 0.085 from it. Because remember, there was a minus sign in there. So we're going to have a negative 0.02. So we're going to have negative 0.02x. And then we've got our plus 2,125. And that equals our 2,000. All right, so now from here, we're going to finish solving. So we're going to subtract 2125 from both sides. And that's going to leave us with a negative 0.02x equals a negative 125. Then from here, we're going to divide negative 0.02 from both sides because we're just trying to get the x by itself. So we'll plug that into our calculator, and that's going to give us a 6250. So 6250. So that's how many of the X investment stocks there were. And so now we need to know, well, that was X, but what was Y? And so we can take our X value now, and we can plug that in to our equation right here. We can plug it in to this one, because remember we had that X plus Y equaled $25,000. And we know that X is $6,250, right? So we know that. So plus Y equals $25,000. You know, I'm kind of running out of room. Let me move this really fast. We're just going to move this right over here. There we go. Okay. So now we're going to subtract that 6,250 so we can get our Y amount of money. So Y is going to equal, so we're going to take our $25,000 and subtract our $6,250 and get $18,750. So $18,750. So as we go to write our answers, we can say that X is 6,250 and that Y is 18,750. And so that's how much was invested at each rate. Now, because it was written to us in a word problem, sometimes they want us to write our answers in a sentence. And so if that was the case, then we would say $6,250 was invested at 6.5%, and $18,750 was invested at 8.5%. So it really kind of depends on what your teacher is looking for. The more correct answer would be the sentence because it relates it back to the problem. But a lot of times you can give just the ordered pair as well, and that will work.